What is up, y'all? Kevin Kuhn here from athletefactors.com. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch or listen to this. This is episode number 1 of the Athlete Factors podcast. And just want to take a couple minutes to kind of explain what the business is and kind of what my vision is, where I see this going. So let's jump right in. So first and foremost, what is Athlete Factors? Well, essentially, Athlete Factors is my way of bringing to light all the areas of overlap between a lot of the different professions related to sport performance or athletic performance. So what I mean by that is I want to, as much as possible, bridge the gaps between sport performance, strength and conditioning, sport nutrition, dietetics, injury prevention, rehab, corrective exercise, massage therapy, biomechanics, athletic training, physical therapy, chiropractics, orthopedics, and sports psychology. So all of these areas were factors that I got to peek into at least a little bit in undergrad and then again in grad school, and I think they're just all so important, and to focus on just a single one of those components can be somewhat detrimental to maximizing athletic performance for any type of athlete, but specifically with youth athletes. So since that's a huge passion of mine, that's kind of the majority of my focus here, although there's really overlap and benefit for everyone. So the goal is to integrate knowledge where all of these professions overlap so that we can make practical applications within these overlapping areas. So instead of putting up like blinders like a racehorse where they can only see what's straight in front of them, I think we need to work more as a functioning team. Instead of trying to view each other as competitors in these differing fields, really, I think it's helpful to understand that what strength and conditioning has is completely unique from what, let's say, athletic training has, and what dietetics has, and what massage therapy has. Although there's tons of overlap, right? For all of those, we have to understand functional anatomy. We have to understand the basics of biochemistry. And because there's that shared foundation, instead of viewing each other as completely separate, really we need to view each other as part of the same industry that is athletic performance. So when we do that, I think everybody wins. So I think the only way to do that is to realize that most of the time we're speaking the same language. Maybe we're using a slightly different dialect, but really we're talking the same language. So we need to converse with each other. We need to have conversations. More than just, hey, my athlete got hurt, so I'm going to send them to you and you take care of them, and when they're fixed, send them back. And that's your job over there, and my job is over here. And I don't want you trying to come into my lane, and hey, I'm going to stay out of your lane. I think that's a huge disservice to the athletes if that's the view or the position that you take, instead of a more integrated approach where it's like, hey, I'm going to learn as much as possible about what you do, and hopefully in return you'll do the same, with the understanding that, hey, I can't replace you. I need you. And hopefully you understand and reciprocate that you need me. But now when you have a recommendation, I can say, I understand where you're coming from. That would be a huge benefit to me and my athletes. So that's kind of the focus or the overarching goal of Athlete Factors is to understand, hey, we're all under the same umbrella, and we need to work with each other. We need to learn from each other. And everybody wins, but most importantly, the athletes win. So as an athlete who dealt with an injury, I understand how important that is now. So at the time, I didn't really get it back in college, but now I understand. Man, I wish I knew some of these things now, or sorry, I wish I knew then what I know now, because that would have helped get me back faster onto the track. That would have helped me explain things to my coach better, and explain things from my coach to the athletic trainers better, and so on and so forth. So all that to say, the goal of the podcast is to bring in people from each of these professions that I consider extremely competent at what they do, people who aren't content only knowing what they know now, right? They're trying to push and expand their knowledge and their experience so that they can provide as much benefit as possible to the athletes that they work with. So I want to have real, raw conversations with professionals in all of these areas, not just so that I can learn from them, but hopefully they'll learn a thing or two from me, and in return, we make each other a lot more competent and a lot more effective, and ultimately we provide more value to athletes. So this is going to help me stay sharp, right? So obviously I'm a little biased, and I'm a little selfish. Okay, I want to be as effective as possible, and ultimately, if nobody else ever sees these or listens to them, I'm going to do them anyway, because iron sharpens iron. I'm trying to be as sharp as possible. So I want to continue to add to my own knowledge, but hopefully that spills over, and knowledge and application within the realm of sport performance is expanded as well. So who do we have lined up? Well, the first couple I have locked in. I've got Ambrose Coleman, who's been a really good friend and mentor to me. His business, Go See Ambrose, is next level, and I love working with him and talking with him, just because, man, I could talk with him for days on end and forget that I hadn't eaten, just because he is so passionate about making sure kids don't get hurt, keeping them from doing damage, right? So a lot of that comes on the front end with kinetic assessments. So that's his bread and butter. He is blazing a trail with that. So I can't wait to have him on to discuss that. Like, if you don't know how to assess your athletes, then you are going to want to listen to this. If you're an athlete who's been injured and you don't necessarily know why, this is going to blow your mind. So I'm super pumped to have that podcast with him. I've got a really good friend, Jessica York. She's a dietitian. Her business is called Honest Nutrition, and I can't wait to have her on to discuss just general trends in dietary health and dietary science, and shedding some light, dropping some knowledge bombs on fad diets, and how to remove the maze, the confusion that's just thrown at your face every single day when you're looking at Facebook or when you're reading a magazine, and all this garbage is just getting thrown at you. She's amazing at shedding some genuine practical light on that. So how to simplify your diet, but how to remain healthy. So can't wait to have her on. We're also going to have on James Banks from Forward Performance, and his bread and butter is football training. The dude's a beast even now. Like, he cranks out some serious training, and he's just as much of a beast when it comes to learning new stuff. Like, he's not content only knowing what he knows now. So I can't wait to talk with him about not only how he trains his athletes, but also what he's learning right now, because I know it's he's not stagnant, and he's not stale. Like, he's learning something new right now. I guarantee it. So that's going to be awesome. Another one I've got lined up is a good buddy of mine from grad school, Garson Skelton, who's a really awesome high school strength coach. And I can't wait to just have a conversation with him about the struggles that he has with high school athletes, but also the ways that he's making it so that his athletes are throwing up some serious weight and on the bar, and getting stronger and reducing injury and getting faster and all that stuff. So that's going to be really amazing. So that's kind of who I have lined up so far. I have a list of about 20 other people that, like I said, I'm going to do these podcasts with them whether y'all actually listen to it or not. So I know I'm going to get a lot from it. So I'm super excited. If y'all don't know me at all, I'll just give you a really quick Cliff's Notes version of my background and experience, just so you kind of know where I'm coming from. And hopefully that'll shed some light into why I'm picking and choosing these specific individuals to have these conversations with. So I'm originally from a small town in Ohio. When I was 6, my parents moved my brothers and sister and I to the Philippines. We were there for about 7 years. My parents were missionaries there, and then we moved back for good right before I started high school. And I ran cross country and track in high school and did pretty well and wanted to run in college. So I was able to get a scholarship and do some running in college. I actually crossed the street from where my high school was to go to university at Cedarville University. Ran there, injured my back my junior year, and that began to force me to look at these other areas and try to learn about them. I was an exercise science major in college, and I minored in coaching and health education. So that kind of helped branch out my experience at that level. I came down to Dallas while I was in college to do an internship at the Cooper Aerobic Center, and that just absolutely blew my mind. And while I was down here, I decided to go look at grad school at Baylor University and just absolutely fell in love with it. I kind of wanted to watch their track team a lot, so I'm a huge track fan. So knowing that that's where, Michael Johnson and Jeremy Warner went, I was like, I need to see this. So went to grad school at Baylor, had an amazing time there, studying strength and conditioning, kinesiology, exercise physiology, but the sub-emphasis was strength and conditioning, and had an amazing professor there named Darren Willoughby, who just incorporated a ton of nutritional biochemistry or biochemistry in general into all of the classes I had with him, which was amazing. That really opened my mind to how important the nutrition side is to training, both from a recovery standpoint as well as fueling training intensity. So that was amazing. After grad school, I moved to Indianapolis to work with a professional running club called the Indiana Invaders, and I got to work with Coach Greg Harger there, working with professional runners, which was awesome. I got to be their strength coach and sport nutrition coach. Did that for about a year and a half, and then I wanted some warmer weather, so I actually moved back to Dallas in 2012 to work with a guy named Ambrose Coleman, who's going to be on the podcast, and I've been working with him ever since on youth athletic development and injury prevention, and learning how to assess people and catch injuries before they happen, or when an injury does happen, kind of figure out the mechanics of why that happened to prevent it in the future and that sort of thing. So that kind of catches us up to where we're at. So yeah, that's that. So if you guys have any questions for me or comments for me, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can email me at kevin@athletefactors.com, or you can find me on Instagram, all one word, Athlete Factors, or on Twitter @Athlete Factors. You can find me on Facebook. You can search @Athlete Factors, and on YouTube, 2 words, Athlete Factors. That's the channel. So that's where all of the video podcasts will go. I'm also planning on uploading this onto just the audio onto iTunes. So if you know anyone who would benefit from any of these podcasts, please, let them know. My goal here is to share as much knowledge and applicable information as possible. So, yeah, alrighty, y'all. Thanks again for watching and listening, and tune in for the next one. Have a good one.